Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, we have fully cleared out the living room and it is ready for flooring. Except for one little problem. Come over here, I'm gonna show you something I just found. There's like some fungus or mushrooms growing out of the crack between the wall and floor there. And the reason that's happening is because this steel plate above the window and the masonry work here has just like deteriorated to the point where I can't leave it because we can't have mushrooms growing on my new floor. I gotta call in the masonry guys, and that means it's gonna be a little bit of time before I can start the flooring. So I'm gonna take advantage of this little delay, and we're gonna go back and look at some footage I had in the archives of back when we blew out the big hole in the back wall and put the window in there. So today we're gonna see a pretty big transformation. The masonry guys are here to knock out a hole in the brick wall in the back so that we can add a big 8-foot by 5-foot window. So let me just try and explain quickly what these guys are doing over there with all the jackhammering. Basically they start with a big old masonry saw, which is just a scary, scary piece of machinery. They take that and they cut out the grout on the top and the bottom of a row of bricks. Then they're gonna take a power hammer, which is basically a miniature jackhammer in the form factor of a big power drill, and they use that to chisel out the mortar in between the bricks so they can remove individual bricks and keep them intact. Yeah, I don't know if you can see the garage, everything is just dusty. Whew. Better step in, the workshop's not as bad, but. So this is one of the bricks that came out of the wall, and the masonry guys are telling me, like, you got to save all these bricks, take them, you can resell them. There are places that buy them. They don't make them like they used to. About $1.20, $1.30 each, and I'm gonna probably have like 600 or so. So we're gonna put these in a truck and drive them down to the brickyard, make a few bucks, and make sure that these bricks get reused. So they've removed all the interior bricks, and they actually made the hole a little bit bigger than the 8x5 window we'll be installing. And they're now going to come back with a heavy-duty steel angle iron to reinforce the structural integrity across the window, and then add a couple new rows of bricks above that angle iron so that the building's structural integrity is sound. So they finished knocking out the 2 rows of interior bricks and the opening for the windows. And just to clarify, the wall had 3 rows of bricks, so they've left 1 exterior row for Monday. And now they're building up the sill. So the sill of the window gives you a nice level edge that we're gonna put the window on. And the sill is actually made by turning the bricks 90 degrees, so you have long ways 1 row of bricks, and they're just laying 1 row of those all the way across the bottom, and you have a nice window sill made of brick. One nice thing I noticed is that to do the bricks that they have to rebuild to get the nice crisp edges for the window, they're actually reusing the bricks they took out. So 1, it's nice to reuse the same brick, and 2, it'll match the rest of the brick perfectly, which is nice. This is actually turning out to be a little more tedious than they thought in removing the window. They're having to do brick by brick with hammer, even though they've got the scaffolding. Normally they just use a saw to take out whole rows at a time like they did on the interior, but we got some electrical wires like right by there. Those electrical wires outside are shielded, but you do not want to hit one of those main power wires with the saw. doing it by hand, I guess, is the only way to go, and they're taking their time to stay safe. So they got the hole in the window opened up, and it looks like there's gonna be a lot of light that'll get in through that window. For my use with the YouTube studio, we'll probably be using blackout shades most of the time to prevent the light from getting in, but it is nice to have natural light when we want it. They made an effort to knock all the bricks inward inside the building so they wouldn't fall out in the alley and crack. So now they've got this huge pile of bricks on the inside here, and they're basically going through that pile one by one and knocking the mortar off of each brick so that all those bricks can be preserved and reused. They're mixing up the mortar to add bricks to the exterior edges of the opening, and it's a good time for a quick educational tidbit on the proper way to mix mortar. As you're adding water to the mix, you don't want it to be too chunky, but when you take your trowel and you make a cavity or a divot in the mortar, you want it to hold its shape. You don't want it to slump back down and fill the hole. So that's what he's testing here. So once you got it to that even consistency, but it holds its shape, then you know you're in the right spot. As they're doing this, I realized there's just so much more work that goes to making a window frame in a brick wall as opposed to a timber wall in a typical residential construction. Bricks are not straight. You just have to get the level out after laying every single brick to make sure that you have a level surface for the window to sit on. So right now the guys are putting this masonry flashing on top of the angle iron, and that's going to keep water from leaking in through this window, and that's always a good thing. Gonna take a quick break here, but it is not for a sponsor, because there is no sponsor for this video. Instead, I want to take a minute and introduce something I'm super excited about. Industrial brand. With Kat on the team, she has taken the lead, redesigned the logos. We've got some merch out. There'll be a link in the description. It is so new right now. It is still in transit to me. I don't even have the merch yet myself. So check it out, because not only is industrial brand gear super stylish, but when you buy it, you're also helping support this project and the content we're making. For that, my friends, I am grateful. So check it out. Thank you in advance. And now back to the video. So the masonry work was done, but there are currently shortages of just about every type of raw building material, including windows. So even though I went with an opening that would fit 2 standard size 4x5 foot windows, there was a 5-week lead time, which actually ended up being a bit longer than that, to get the windows delivered. So that left me with a big problem to solve, because there was a hole in my wall to the exterior. I could have just boarded it up like you do with any window that's missing, but at that point, I was about to start the hardwood flooring install in the back, and all the electrical upstairs wasn't yet turned on. So I decided I was gonna make a temporary window, and that actually starts the same as you would if you were just boarding a window up, making a frame from 2x4s, which fortunately I had left over from some previous projects and didn't have to buy them at $8 a pop, which is just absolute craziness. Say what you will, but pocket holes are the way to go for quick and dirty projects like this. And if you hate on pocket holes, just remember, pocket holes, they probably hate you back. All right, quick industrial quiz. All the paint on this 2x4. what project is this left over from? I will post the answer in my YouTube stories, say about a day after this video is live. Oh, all right. Try one more try. One more try.
Oh, come on.
Third time's a charm. No pressure.
You can do it!
I think that's my internet, I'm not sure.
So doing anything on the cheap right now is very difficult, but I think I managed to pull it off reasonably well with these windows. So for the main body of the windows, I just used what's called a project panel at our local supply store. Usually it's just called Luan, same thing I think. Very thin plywood, but only runs about $12 per 4x8 sheet, so 2 of those. And I was thinking I was gonna do some plexiglass, but the price of decent plexiglass was kind of through the roof right now. And they actually had these 24 by 30 inch glass panels. They're also pretty thin, but good enough for temporary. Those were only 10 bucks each. So I was able to build the whole structure, seal it, everything for about 50 bucks.
Want you to make my heart feel as much as I know it should. I wanna get high on, caught by surprise by you. Want you to make my heart feel as much as I know.
So this step is gonna be totally unnecessary, but I'm gonna use a trick for caulking and getting perfect caulk lines on this that I use when I'm making concrete forms. So I take some paste wax, I rub it on the wood and the glass before I put on the caulk. Then I put the caulk line, run around the bead of caulk with the fondant ball tool. That will squeeze the excess caulk out to the sides, and then I just leave it. And because I've laid down the paste wax before, I can just peel that excess away, and that'll leave us beautiful, beautiful caulk line. Having it peel away nice and clean means there's less mess to clean up, so I can reuse this glass later on when the window's out of service. So this might seem like a bit of overkill. I do want to make sure we seal off the interior from the outside with this temporary window as best as possible so that this beautiful hardwood floor can acclimate properly and doesn't start doing funky things down the road. So I was thinking we were going to get some kind of weather stripping, but wasn't finding anything, and this is a product that Bob actually recommended me called caulking cord or caulk cord. It's almost like a clay here. It's just tacky enough that it'll stick and kind of work like caulk, but it doesn't stick permanently, which is good because I don't want to get a bunch of nasty silicone permanently stuck onto the beautiful new masonry that I just had done around this window opening. Today we got something kind of exciting happening. Got the guys here ready to install the big 5x8 window in there. It's kind of the last big structural piece. Then after that it's just trim and all to get this studio finished. All right, we just picked up a little pro tip here, watching them do the shims. They get the pointy end of the shim, where it's small, on both sides. They come from the inside and the outside of the window simultaneously, and you can kind of slide them together so it just gets thicker, and then you get even contact across the inside of the window. If you just use one shim, it gets tight at one point instead of a even flat surface when you come in that way.
I'm oblivious to my life. I'm an ending wreck, but I do alright. If you take me above the cloud.
So the window is done, and all we have left to do is the trim there, just like the whole rest of the mostly finished back area that you guys got to tour in the last video. So now I want to head up to the front in the living area and talk about the hardwood flooring here, because we've had some updates since I talked to you at the beginning of the video. And unfortunately, there's setbacks. First up, I discovered I have a pest called powder post beetles. So for those of you who don't know, and I had no clue before I found them, they lay their eggs on the underside of the wood, and when the larvae hatches, it burrows up through the wood and leaves a bunch of holes in the wood. Fortunately, this is not as bad as like termites, and I think I can address the problem in a not too difficult manner, and I'll talk about that in the next video. The bigger problem is the framing for the subfloor in the area where I found all the mushrooms. I did some exploratory demo and ripped up the floor there. It was totally rotted out, so that had to be replaced. But even worse, when I got underneath there, I discovered that whoever framed that area out had tied the joists that support the floor, and those are the primary structural supports that hold the floor up. They tied those into the metal frame for the front door. So you've got the wood joist directly resting on metal that is exposed to the exterior, which is a big problem because raw metal will always be transmitting moisture through it, and slowly those wood boards will just rot out. So it looks like I am going to actually have to tear up a section of the floor and rebuild the framing for it before I even put the new subfloor in that section. And on a more exciting note, I also have my buddy Johnny Lambert, aka Johnny Builds on YouTube, coming in town. So we were talking about doing something kind of fun, a quick 3-day roof deck challenge, see if we can make just a cool little structure up on the roof that I can use to actually enjoy the outdoors this summer. So if you'd like to see me kind of take a break from all the nitty-gritty construction for a few days and build that roof deck, leave a comment, let me know what you think about that idea. And if you fast forwarded through the middle of the video, here's a little reminder that the Industrial brand merch is available now. There's a link in the description below. Go get it. You'll love it. That's it for this time, and I'll see you next time.